Something you may not know is just about everyone who's overweight loses a pretty good amount of weight at some point in their life. But the sad reality is almost everyone gains it back. So if you want to lose the weight and keep it off long term, don't go anywhere. Hey, this is Colin DeWitt. If you want to master your metabolism and create forever results, start now by subscribing and click on that bell notification so you don't miss anything. Alright, I want to jump right into it today, but make sure you stick around to the end of the video because I have 5 powerful tips that you can start implementing right now to make sure you lose the weight for good. So starting off, the most important point I can possibly give you, and all other tips that I'm going to give you will all be centered around this one, is that you need to have a lot of patience. Remember, we're not just looking to lose weight here, we're looking to lose weight and keep it off, and not a lot of people do this. And if you want lasting results, you need to make lasting changes, and it's highly unlikely that any mad dash to the finish line is going to be that for you. Trying to rush the process absolutely kills people, and there's a couple reasons for this. One being that the more extreme the results you want, the more extreme your plan has to be, and the more extreme your plan is, the less likely you'll be able to keep it up. Another reason is because your metabolism is adaptive, and the more aggressively you diet, the more your metabolism is going to suppress, and the more difficult it's going to be to see further results. And this is why a lot of people start a diet and see really fast results, but then eventually get stuck. When you go on these extreme starvation type diets, yeah, your body will lose a lot of weight first, but not only is not all of that weight fat, and a lot of it is things like water and lean body mass, but even more of a problem is the fact that your metabolism does adapt to whatever you do, and if you're already barely eating and doing a ton of exercise and the body catches up and adapts to this, what are you going to do to continue to see fat loss when the body stalls? If you want to see long-term weight loss, you want to eat as many calories as possible and do as little cardio as possible while seeing results, so that when the body does adapt, you can continue to make changes and see further progress. How much weight loss do you want to see? Well, it really depends on each individual, but I typically say that you don't want to see much more than about 1% of your body weight per week, maybe up to 2% if you have a lot of weight to lose. Of course, in order to make adjustments to your calories to be able to continue to see results, you kind of need to know how much you're eating, which brings me to point number 2, which is make sure you're tracking your intake, at least at first. Nutrition is such a critical component to weight loss, and the problem with a lot of diets is they focus more on what foods you should or shouldn't eat, and you actually have no clue how much you're actually eating. And it's literally impossible to lose weight without creating a calorie deficit, so knowing how much you eat is going to be a huge advantage. Now don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily have any problems with any diets with a name. I find a lot of them to be pretty unsustainable. For instance, if you're going to do a keto diet, are you really going to eat no carbs for the rest of your life? If the answer is yes, then that's fine, but you have to understand that all diets such as keto or paleo or anything else all work the same way by creating a calorie deficit, just in different ways. If the rest of your diet remains the same and you eliminate these sources, especially if you ate a lot of them, you're going to lose weight because by taking out these sources, you reduce the amount of calories you're eating and therefore put your body into a calorie deficit. It's not that those foods make you fat, it's just by simply taking them out, you're eating less calories. But here's the problem. If that's your plan and you don't know how much you're eating, what are you going to do when your metabolism eventually adapts? And this is a when, not if. You're already not eating bread or dairy, so you basically have to resort to eliminating something else from your diet. But if you're tracking and being consistent and you know how much you're eating, then you know how to make some adjustments when fat loss does stall after your metabolism adapts. You don't necessarily have to cut out anything completely, you just have to eat less. Not only that, but remember, this is about long-term weight loss, and there's nothing that teaches you more about food and nutrition than actually tracking your intake. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to track for the rest of your life, but I do think that everyone should spend at least a few months tracking so you can create a good knowledge base for moving forward. See, the thing is, everyone wants to eat intuitively, but how can you be intuitive if you have no clue what's in the food that you eat? And when you just eliminate different foods, you don't really know what you're doing. You just go, hey, I eliminated this and I lost weight, and then when I added it back in, I gained. But the only reason that happened is because you took away calories, and then you probably felt really restricted from it and ate a bunch more and gained a bunch of weight back. But if you take the time to track and learn what's in all the different foods that you eat, you have a much better knowledge base that you can use moving forward for the rest of your life. And not only that, but most people find that once they get good at it, you only spend about 5 minutes a day actually tracking anyways, and it doesn't take up that much time. It's just like anything else in life. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and you're not going to be great at first, but give it some time and you'll get there. By taking the time now to build this knowledge base, then moving forward, even if you're not tracking, you can just look at food and have a rough idea of what the portion size looks like, how many carbs and fats and protein, and it just all becomes a lot simpler because you have the knowledge that you've already built rather than relying on just don't eat this. But if you don't do this and you just rely on taking out something like sweets, the problem becomes you take them out, you start to lose weight, you think that that food's bad, then you eventually add it back in again because you feel restricted. Now you overeat on it, you gain the weight back, and you look at that food as fattening. But it wasn't because those foods were bad or magically stored as fat, it's just you took out calories and then you added them back in and you gained the weight back. And a good relationship with food is so important for long-term success, which is going to be my next point. But really quick first, if you don't know how many calories to eat or how to make adjustments through a dieting phase, don't worry, I have a video that I'll put at the end of this video that you can check out, and I'll take you through that step by step. Anyway, that brings me to tip number 3, which I assume at this point you could probably gather anyway, and that is to make sure you are flexible with your dieting style and make sure it's something that you can sustain. As discussed, so many people take such dramatic approaches to their dieting. If you want sustainable results, you better make sure your diet is sustainable, and I don't know too many people who can go the rest of their life without eating any of their favorite foods. And in my opinion, this is a big part of the tracking that I was just talking about, because you learn how to include some of the foods you enjoy into your diet, still hit your numbers and still see progress and not be afraid to eat them. Obviously, it doesn't mean you can have endless amounts of anything you want, but by learning how to include a little bit of the things that you do enjoy, it can be the very thing that keeps you from going crazy and binging. I mean, how many times in the past have you had a situation where you said you weren't going to eat a certain type of food, but then eventually your willpower ran out and you had it? What ends up happening? You basically say, well, I'm never going to have this again, so I need to get as much as I can in now before my diet starts again tomorrow. Sure, fresh veggies are a much healthier option than things like ice cream, but the thing is, if having a little bit of that ice cream is going to help you stick to your plan and stick to your numbers and not overeat later, then in that instance you could basically argue that that ice cream is a better choice because it's going to keep you on point. We always have to look at what we eat in the context of an overall diet and not singular foods. No foods on their own make you fat and no foods on their own make you thin. It's just some are more or less nutrient dense and or more or less filling. So there's trade-off in everything we do here. There's always balance. Yes, you can have the ice cream instead of veggies if you want, but you're probably going to be hungrier with this option. Or you can have the veggies instead of the ice cream, but then you might feel a little bit more restricted and have a harder time sticking to the plan. To me, the big thing is it has to be your choice. When it's your choice, you're in control. There's a big difference between saying you can't have something and choosing that it's not the right option for you right now. Keep in mind that as calories get lower, the longer you diet and the more aggressively you have to diet to continue to see results, you will be eating less calories, and that leaves less room for things like junk food. So you have to understand that it's a temporary situation and that you'll be able to get your calories back up later, which brings me to my next point. This, in my opinion, is the most missed part of most diet plans, and that is the diet after the diet. Even if you've lost all the weight you want, you have to make sure you can keep it off. And anytime you finish a diet, chances are your calories are going to be pretty low because of what we talked about with how adaptive your metabolism is. Not only that, but your body has a body fat set point, and at the end of a diet, your hormones are going to be all messed up, and your body's going to do everything that it can to try to get you to gain that weight back by giving you all kinds of hormonal signals and making keeping the weight off difficult. So a real trap can be you finish your diet and you've reached your goal, which is great, but the problem is your body is fighting you. You're barely eating, your hunger hormones are all messed up, and you're just not sure you can stick to these low calories. So you need to do something called reverse dieting, where you slowly increase your calories back up so that you can get your metabolism working better for you again, get those hunger hormones to settle down a little bit, not to mention be able to enjoy more food again. Now, I can't necessarily promise you won't gain any weight back during the process, but you can definitely minimize it big time, and it's well worth the trade-off of being able to eat a lot more food, and it makes it much easier for you to sustain it rather than just try to spend the rest of your life barely even eating. In fact, this is one part that's a huge struggle for a lot of people, is you might have to be okay with gaining just a little bit of weight back, but understand that there's a huge difference between gaining a little bit of weight back and gaining all the weight back. In fact, because of how adaptive the metabolism is, especially if you have a lot of weight to lose, very few people actually lose all the weight they want to in one weight loss attempt. And that's perfectly okay. Don't get tied up in feeling like you failed if you didn't get it all off at one time. Take your time, be patient, reverse diet for a while, get your metabolism into a better spot, get your hormones back into a better spot, so you can come back later to get the rest of the weight off. And while I know you never want to consider gaining any weight back, this method could be the very thing that actually gets you to reach your long-term goals. There's a huge difference between yo-yoing the same 30 pounds on and off all the time versus losing 30 pounds and then gaining 5 back and then losing another 30. Do not get caught up in feeling like a failure if you gain any weight back. Weight is very hard to maintain all the time, so there's always going to be a little bit of fluctuation. So whether you've reached your goal or you just feel like you can't take the diet anymore and you need to come back and do it later, make sure you reverse diet out so you can maintain your results without feeling like you can never eat again. In fact, if you're really diligent about it, you may end up eating even more than you ever have before while maintaining your weight. Can't promise it, but it is possible. Now the next point I want to talk about is exercise, because it seems like there's a lot of confusion about what's better to do cardio or weight training with regards to weight loss. And I think I can actually simplify this. I personally think that weight training is better for long-term results, whereas cardio is better for short-term results. What I mean by this is you're probably going to burn more calories in an actual cardio session than you are a weight training session, so in a fat loss phase it's easier to manipulate cardio to see better results. Strength training should actually remain relatively the same whether you're cutting or building. It's just what helps you build and maintain muscle mass, and the more muscle you have, the faster your metabolism will be and the more calories you'll burn at rest. Not to mention the extra muscle is what's going to give you the most dramatic results in changes in body composition. So this is all the more reason to not get caught up in rushing the process and playing the short game. Cardio is a great help, but strength training is how you play the long game and win. So in my opinion, utilize a combination of both to see the best possible results. Now, I will say this, I do believe there's an exception here, and that comes back down to sustainability again. If you absolutely hate strength training and want nothing to do with it, but you love cardio, then it makes sense for you to use a lot of cardio to get better results because it's something that you enjoy and can stick to long term. It doesn't matter how optimal something is if you're not going to stick to it. I cannot overstate this enough. Losing weight and keeping it off long term requires sustainable changes. There's no such thing as a quick fix plan that creates sustainable results, and white knuckling it is not going to get you there. So you have to be willing to put in the work and keep putting it in, and you can never think of it as being done. Doesn't mean you have to work as hard forever, but it does mean you're always going to have to put in some level of effort. You can't create forever results if you don't plan on working on it forever. Now here's what I want you to do next. Like I've been telling you, in order to have success, you need to learn how to track your intake and how to be able to make adjustments moving forward. So make sure you check out this video and I'll tell you how to get started even if you've never tracked ever before, and how to make adjustments throughout your entire diet so you can finally reach your goal. Please share this video with people you think it could help, because we all know plenty of people who yo-yo diet a lot. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. If you have any questions for me, please put them in the comments below, and I will see you next time.